Does money buy happiness? We've all thought about it, so now let's talk about it. If you're new here, my name is Allie, I'm the saver, and welcome to My Money, My Purpose. On this channel, we talk all about personal finance, health and wellness, and our personal journeys. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss one of our uploads. First off, we need to talk about what it means to be happy. By definition, happiness is a feeling or showing of contentment or pleasure. It is a general sense of confidence or satisfaction in a person, situation, or arrangement. And I really liked this specific graphic because it talks about how happiness is associated with gratitude and fulfillment. So remember that part because we're going to come back to it later. So normally when we talk about money and happiness, the answer is a resounding no! You cannot buy happiness. But I think that this is very dependent on how you view money, how you view happiness, and what your relationship to the two ideas is. So I wanted to dig a little bit further into the different relationships that we can have with money. In a study done by researchers at the University of Kansas, looked into 4 factors that identified people's behaviors with money. The 4 factors were money avoidance, money worship, money status, and money vigilance. If you have any interest in looking deeper into these on your own, then I'll reference all of the articles that I researched down below. I found it a really interesting read. But to summarize, for those of you who don't want to do additional research, the general idea of what each of these 4 factors means. So money avoidance is when you sabotage your financial success because you either think that money is inherently bad or evil, or you feel like you don't deserve to have more money in your life. On the flip side, money worship is when you believe that money is the key to all of your happiness, to all of your success, and that it will solve all of your problems. If you just had more money, everything would be better. Money status is when you associate money as the only way to have success, and you define your self-worth by the amount of money that is in your bank account. So usually this would be seen in people that really idolize people who have a lot of money. And then money vigilance is when you're so focused on working and saving your money that you don't use it for anything enjoyable in your day-to-day life. And usually it ends up causing you more stress and anxiety because you're constantly thinking about the money that you need to save, and you tend to be less willing to take financial risks. As I was reading through these articles, I started to kind of think about where I fall into these categories, and I think that I most closely align with money vigilance. So in some ways, this can be very positive because I think that it's helped me build healthy financial habits. But I also tend to be very focused on saving and always thinking ahead towards the future and what can I be saving now to prep me for the future. And the problem with that is that I tend to stray away from taking financial risks, from investing, from allowing my money to grow and do so in a way where I don't have to be actively putting time and energy and work into making more money. It's working for me. And while I don't think that these categories are hard and fast, I do think it's very beneficial for people to think about, what their spending habits are, and what their relationship to money looks like. So I'd be very interested to know what money category you think that you fall into, and what do you think the pros, the benefits of that are, and what have been some of the cons for you, and what are some of the things that you're working on. So back to the question at hand, can money buy happiness? So I think that when people usually think about this question, we immediately go towards the money worship mentality. Well, no, money is not the key to happiness. Money is not going to fix all of your problems. I think a different way to look at this question is how can we utilize money to work for us, to make us happier, to bring us more joy, to increase our gratitude and our sense of fulfillment in life. Because money does not inherently have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to put you in a situation where you're always wanting more. I think that it can truly be a benefit and help you to multiply the gratitude and the happiness and the joy that you feel in your life. So in that way, I think, yes, we can absolutely utilize money in a way that increases our joy and our happiness and our contentment with the life that we're living. But how? right? How can we shift our mindset so that money brings us joy rather than stressing us out? I think that in order to do that, we need to really look into what specifically brings us as individuals joy, because that's going to look different for everyone. So while I can't say spend your money on these 5 things and it'll make you happier, I can provide questions and suggestions for you to ask yourself to determine what those things are for you that's going to make your life happier. So let's go through some of the steps and suggestions that I have for kind of how you can walk through this to understand your current relationship with money and how you can make shifts to improve your relationship with money and ultimately allow yourself to utilize your money in a way that brings you more joy. So step 1 is knowing how you spend your money today and what your spending habits look like right now. I think that the key to any sort of a major change in your life is to know what your current state looks like. We really can't make any significant changes if we don't know what we do right now, right? You can't change what you don't know. And so if we want to change our spending habits to bring more joy into our life, then we really need to have a breakdown of what our spending habits look like today and be able to evaluate that to understand if those things are making us happy or if they're bringing us down. So to do this, I would recommend taking about 1 to 3 months of past expenses and just budgeting that out. If you want tips on how to set up a budget or why you should create a budget, definitely check out this video that I posted a few weeks ago. It kind of goes over my process for budgeting. In that video, I walk through kind of what my spending categories look like and how they've changed from 2019 until now, and why my new spending habits make me a lot happier than my old spending habits did. So once you have a breakdown of what your budget looks like and what categories you spend in, then it's time to really evaluate your spending habits. In order to evaluate your spending habits, here are some questions that I've asked myself in the past to get a better understanding of how I feel about where my money is going. So first off is just generally, how did I feel about that purchase? So this can be something that you ask yourself in the moment, where if you are about to make a purchase, ask yourself why you're making that purchase. Do you feel good about it, or are you feeling like there's a pressure to make that purchase? And then when you're evaluating something in the past, you can look at how you feel now. Do you feel regret? Do you feel guilt about spending that money? Or do you look at that purchase and you still feel like that was the right thing to do? Or it's something that's still bringing you joy. Our relationship with money has a lot to do with how we feel when we spend our money. So we have a good relationship with money if we feel really good, not only in the moment, but also months later. And we have an unhealthy relationship with money if when we spend that money, we feel bad or guilty or a negative way about ourselves, either in the moment or later on. And so the second question I would ask is, why did I make that purchase, right? So was I making that purchase because it was something that I truly wanted, or was I making that purchase because I felt pressured, because I felt like there was some sort of social obligation to make that purchase, or I was stressed out and I just wanted to make myself feel better in the moment, or was I looking for some type of outside approval that I felt like I would get if I made that purchase? Ultimately, we want all of our purchases to come from a place of feeling good about the things that we're buying and knowing that we're spending our money on things that ultimately make us feel better about ourselves. Anytime that you spend your money on something and you feel like there was an outside pressure to spend it, I feel like those are the instances where we look back and we wish that we hadn't spent that money. Whereas if it's coming from a place of gratitude and satisfaction with your life, then you're going to be happy about those dollars spent and not wish that they went to something else. And then the third question is, what am I prioritizing? So ultimately, when we spend our money, we're placing value on that thing or that category. And we want to make sure that the things that we spend our money on are truly a priority to us. So you want to evaluate, does my spending actually align with the things that I value and the things that I want to prioritize? Because if it doesn't, then you're probably not going to feel as good about that purchase. You're not going to feel like it truly represents you and what you believe in. So once you've evaluated your purchases and you've got an idea for how you've been feeling about the way that you've been spending your money, you probably have a better idea now about what areas you want to cut out. But in order to determine what areas you want to spend more in, this is when I would recommend focusing on gratitude and fulfillment. So you want to think about the things in your life that you feel really grateful for and the things that fill your cup up. And ask yourself how you can spend money to expand those areas of your life. So a personal example of this that I talked a little bit about in my budget video is the amount that I used to spend on clothing versus what I spend my money on now. Because I found that when I was buying clothes, one, I was buying it for an outward appearance to, kind of determine the way I wanted to be perceived. And two, the amount of clothing that was in my closet was just getting to the point where it was overwhelming me and stressing me out. I mean, a lot of it wasn't things that I was wearing on a day-to-day basis. And so what I ultimately decided was that the money that I was spending on that, I was going to reallocate towards things in my life that were truly a priority to me. So things like spending time with my family, with my friends, money that I could put aside to travel to visit people or share experiences with people. I found that even though I was spending the same amount of money, it was ultimately bringing a lot more to my life and improving my life in a way that in the way that my spending habits hadn't. And I know that a lot of people talk about, purchasing experiences over purchasing material items. And I do agree that you get a lot out of making memories and that those experiences tend to be things that you don't regret later on, that you're happy to have spent the money on. But I also think that there are material purchases that can bring you joy as well. So in that realm of things, things that I like to spend my money on now are reading books or going to the hairdresser or buying hair products. These are things that I happily spend my money on and that don't feel frivolous to me. I think a lot of times when we think of reallocating our money, we think that all material purchases are frivolous unless they're a necessity. If you make a purchase and somebody else thinks that it was overspending, but it brings you a lot of joy and it's something that is an aspect of your life that you're really happy about, then it's not a frivolous purchase. You're making a conscious decision to spend your hard-earned money on something that might be expensive but is worthwhile to you. And those are the things that we just have to be able to determine for ourselves. And I think a big part of that is understanding, when I made that purchase, do I feel grateful for the item that I have now? And did it fill my cup? And will I continue to feel this way? Because if you can say yes to all of those things, then it's not a frivolous purchase. And so once you kind of know what things you don't like spending money on and what things you feel good about spending money on, then you can make a financial plan. So I think that when we want to make a change, we have to do it in gradual steps. And that's the same thing with our spending habits. You're not going to go from spending in a category to spending nothing in that category or completely cutting it in half. Sometimes things tend to be gradual, and that's okay. And so I would recommend setting goals to slowly begin to move your money from one area into another area. And step 5 is continue to reassess. So this is important because our values change over time, and so the things that bring us joy and that we feel good about now might look differently in the future. And so we want to be able to consistently reassess our situation and really be in tune with what we're feeling and what we're thinking, so that we can make sure that we continue to have a healthy relationship with money as we grow and change and our life changes. Ultimately, I think that happiness comes from being content with who we are. So the more that we self-reflect and we prioritize the things that we value, the more connected we will feel to ourselves, and we'll be able to project that sense of confidence into the world regardless of the external things that are happening in our lives. So let me know, what are your thoughts? Do you think that money can buy happiness? And thanks for watching. Talk to you on the next one.